and welcome to the City of Tampa's Lender Realtor Workshop. My name is Trina Gaston Gardner, and I will be your facilitator for the video. So, sit back, relax, replay if need be, and enjoy the training. This slide provides you with the agenda for the workshop. All of these topics will be discussed in detail and possibly repeated at different times throughout the presentation. We will begin with an overview of the Dare to Own the Dream Homeownership program. The Dare to Own the Dream Homeownership program, also known for short as the DARE program, provides up to $40,000 to assist income-eligible first-time homebuyers to achieve the dream of homeownership. The maximum purchase price for this program is $300,000. That's if the applicant's income can qualify for the payment. The DARE loan is in second position behind primary financing from an approved mortgage lender and is typically known as a silent second loan because of the 0% interest rate and the 0 monthly payment. The loan types are flexible, which includes fixed and fully amortized products, FHA, VA, and conventional affordable housing products are allowed. Adjustable rate mortgage loans are not allowed. For an applicant to begin the process of obtaining a reservation number, he or she should contact one of our partnering HUD-approved housing counseling agencies, also known as an HCA. Those approved housing counseling agencies will be discussed in the next few slides. The applicant must also attend a homebuyer education class through one of the 3 approved housing counseling agencies and also attend any required counseling sessions with that agency. I will now provide you with information about our 3 HUD-approved housing counseling agencies. This slide reflects our current 3 approved housing counseling agencies who can assist an applicant in obtaining the required reservation number. The role of the housing counseling agencies are as follows. They are to remain a HUD-approved housing counseling agency. They facilitate the required homebuyer education classes, which includes providing the applicant with the homebuyer education certificate, and that certificate is valid for 2 years for the DARE and East Tampa CRA programs. The HCAs also obtain the required third-party verifications to confirm employment and assets. The agencies also pull and review the applicant's credit report, and because all 3 of the agencies are HUD-approved agencies, it will be a soft pull on the credit report. What they are reviewing is the applicant's mid-credit score, and for the city's first-time homebuyer programs, the minimum requirement is 600 for the mid-credit score. The counselor is also reviewing the credit report for public records and for the applicant's monthly debt obligation. It is also the role of the HCA to submit the reservation packet to the city for review and approval of the reservation number. The counselor also provides the applicant with the most current approved realtor and lender lists. The counselor also verifies that the property the applicant wishes to purchase is in fact within the City of Tampa limits. And last but most importantly, the counselor also follows up and encourages the buyer not to give up during the process. You've heard me mention the reservation number quite a few times, but now I want to give you a little bit more information about that required number. That reservation number is provided to the housing counseling agency on the actual reservation request form. The reservation number is a 6 to 7 digit alphanumeric number. Because right now we are in fiscal year 23, all reservation numbers will begin with 23, followed by a letter, a dash, and 3 numbers. If the applicant executes a purchase contract before obtaining the reservation number, that applicant is not eligible for city assistance unless that purchase contract can be canceled and re-signed for the date the reservation number was issued or after. And if the applicant has not executed a purchase contract within that 120 calendar day time frame, the city must receive the reservation extension request from the housing counseling agency at least 2 weeks before the reservation number is set to expire. So now, let's test your knowledge of the information that has been shared with you so far. What is the answer to this question? Should a potential buyer execute a purchase contract before receiving a reservation number? And the answer is no. As stated before, if a purchase contract is signed prior to the reservation number being approved, the buyer is not eligible for assistance unless that contract can be canceled and re-signed and redated for the date the reservation number was approved or after. There are 2 phases to the city's underwriting process. The first phase is at the reservation stage, where the housing counseling agency is ensuring the home buyer's eligibility by verifying that the applicant is in fact a first-time home buyer, verifying that the applicant has completed the necessary home buyer education, confirming that the applicant has a minimum mid-credit score of 600, completing the employment verification, and completing the asset verification. During the first phase of the underwriting process, which is also the reservation process, the housing counselor is confirming that the applicant has at least $1,000 in liquid assets. In that same vein, the counselor is also confirming that the applicant does not have more than $20,000 in liquid assets. Retirement accounts are not included in the asset verification. The exception would be if the applicant is receiving retirement income on a monthly basis or a biweekly basis, but if not, that retirement income would not be counted as far as an asset. The second phase of the city's underwriting process begins after the buyer has obtained the required reservation number and has located a property and the lender documents are received. When we receive the lender documents, we are looking at the ratios. For the city's program, the maximum ratios are 36:43 with no wiggle room. There are no minimum ratios, but the maximum ratios are 36 for the front and 43 for the back end. We are also confirming the maximum combined loan to value is no more than 105%. And we're also looking at the source of funds to close. So for the city's first-time homebuyer program, the minimum investment by the buyer is $2,000. If the applicant is only utilizing the East Tampa CRA program and not the DARE program, because there are no funds available for the DARE program, that minimum requirement would be $1,000. And I'll go into more details about that throughout the presentation. This slide details the city's qualification process. Once the city's underwriting is completed and the file is approved, the city's closing approval is emailed to the approved loan officer. Additionally, if the applicant is utilizing the services of an approved realtor, he or she will also receive a copy of the closing approval along with the approved housing counseling agency. Now I will go into further discussion about the Dare to Own the Dream homeownership program. Currently, funds are available for all AMI categories up to 140%, as reflected here on this slide. Again, the maximum award amount is up to $40,000 for eligible applicants depending on their AMI category. It is the lender who decides how the DARE funds will be distributed when it comes to down payment and or closing cost assistance. The city's loan amount is reflected as one lump sum on the lender's closing disclosure. What this slide also shows you is the maximum award amount that can be used toward the purchase of a home. So as you can see here, if an applicant's household income places him or her in the 50% or below AMI category, he or she would be eligible to receive $40,000 from the DARE program. It is not up to $40,000, it's not over $40,000, it is a flat $40,000. The same can be said if the applicant's household income and assets places him or her in the 80% AMI category. As you can see on the slide, for a household that's in that category, they would receive $30,000 in assistance, so forth and so on. What this slide also shows you is that the loan term for the DARE program is 10 years. Prior to the 10 years, all of the funds that were contributed in the transaction must be repaid from the home buyer if he or she defaults, meaning the property is sold, transferred, or is no longer owner occupied. DARE assistance is provided to potential buyers on a first come, first eligible basis. Funding for the DARE program is based on the potential buyer's entire household income, assets, along with the applicant's mid-credit score, which again, as you remember, for the DARE program, the minimum mid-credit score is 600. The buyer must be a first-time home buyer, and for the City of Tampa's program, a first-time home buyer is an individual who has had no ownership of a principal residence or who has not owned a home in the last 3 years at the time of application. The exceptions to this definition are domestic violence and a displaced spouse due to divorce with appropriate documentation. Eligible properties for the DARE program include 1 to 4 family units, single family detached, townhomes, and condominiums. The properties could be existing or new construction. The maximum sales price for the DARE program is $300,000. And the property must be located in the Tampa city limits. And links will be discussed and provided to you so that you can confirm if the property is eligible for the DARE program. So as previously discussed, for the DARE program, the eligible AMI categories go up to the above moderate income category, which is 140%, as shown to you on this income chart. Again, when the verification of employment and verification of assets are completed by one of the approved housing counseling agencies, that counselor is calculating household income and household assets. So once that total amount has been calculated, that counselor is looking at the household size and the household income to see what the AMI category would be. So for example, if the household size is a total of 3 people and the household income, total household income, was calculated to be $84,000 for a household of 3. By looking at this chart, the counselor would go to the 3 persons column, and then look for where $84,000 falls. So again, I'm highlighting it here, the 3 persons column, and then looking at where $84,000 would fall. So that would be in the moderate income, 120% AMI category. Because at $84,000, it is above the low income category of $59,150, but the $84,000 is below the $88,680, which is what you see here in the moderate income 120% AMI category. As a result, at $84,000 for a household of 3, this household is in that 120% moderate income category and will be eligible to receive $20,000 from the DARE program. Now I will discuss the East Tampa Community Revitalization Area Down Payment Assistance Program. And yes, that is a mouthful. So for short, I will refer to this program as the East Tampa program or the East Tampa CRA program. For the East Tampa program, it follows the same application process as with the DARE program. An applicant does not need to receive a separate reservation number if utilizing the East Tampa program. It is one reservation number for the DARE program along with the East Tampa CRA program. Now remember, with the DARE program, the property has to be confirmed to be within the City of Tampa limits. That is also the case for the East Tampa program, However, in addition to the property being within the Tampa city limits, that property must also be located within the East Tampa CRA footprint. And again, you will be provided with links to confirm not only that the property is located within the Tampa city limits, but also to be able to confirm that the property is in fact located within the East Tampa CRA footprint. Once that reservation number has been approved and the applicant has executed a purchase contract and that contract has been provided to the City of Tampa, we will complete research to confirm that property is eligible for the East Tampa CRA program. And if that property is indeed eligible, the loan officer will receive a copy of the confirmation of eligibility letter. And again, if that applicant is utilizing the services of an approved real estate agent, he or she will also receive a copy of that eligibility letter along with the approved housing counseling agency. Now, if you remember, with the DARE program, the maximum loan amount is $40,000. As you can see on this slide, the maximum award amount for the East Tampa program is $50,000. Also, another difference between the DARE program and the East Tampa CRA program, sorry about that, is that with the DARE program, the loan term is 10 years. With the East Tampa program, the loan term is 7 years. Max AMI category is still the same at 140%. The minimum mid credit score is the same at 600. However, another difference between the East Tampa program and the DARE program is the minimum required investment from the borrower. So with the DARE program, the minimum required investment was $2,000. If an applicant is only using the East Tampa CRA program, the minimum required investment is $1,000. And if both programs are used together, meaning the DARE program is being layered with the East Tampa program, still the minimum required investment from the borrower would be $2,000. Not $3,000, but $2,000. And again, as you can see on this slide, the eligible or allowed loan types are the same for East Tampa as they are for DARE. This program does allow for FHA, VA, and conventional loan products. Again, adjustable rate mortgage loans are not allowed. Also, for both programs, there are 2 inspections that are required. One is a full independent home inspection paid for by the buyer, and a past housing quality standards, also known as an HQS inspection, completed by the city, is also required to take place before closing. Depending on the applicant's AMI category, this slide breaks down the amount that the applicant would be able to receive if the property is located within the East Tampa CRA footprint. And again, just like with DARE, there is no up to amounts. If the applicant's AMI category is 80% and the property he or she intends to purchase is confirmed to be located within the East Tampa CRA footprint, he or she would receive $30,000 from this program. So I try to be a person who keeps her promises. I promised to provide you with the link to confirm if the property is located within the East Tampa CRA footprint. And this is one of the links that the city uses to make that determination. So if you were to utilize the highlighted link, it would take you to the City of Tampa's website. There's a place for you to enter the property address, and then once you do that, there are arrows at the bottom for you to toggle left and right. If the property is located within the East Tampa CRA footprint, down here in this box that I am circling, in the community redevelopment area, it would show you East Tampa. If you do not see this box, the community redevelopment area, and or you see the box and it is grayed out, that means the property is not located within the East Tampa CRA footprint and therefore would not be eligible to receive the East Tampa CRA funding. This is another link that you can also utilize to confirm that the property is located within the East Tampa CRA footprint. What you're looking for, if you utilize this website, is down here where I am highlighting, and it actually says community redevelopment area, and it actually reflects East Tampa CRA. There are other CRAs within the city, but the one that we currently have funding for is the East Tampa CRA. So this section must reflect East Tampa CRA in order for the applicant to receive East Tampa CRA funding. This income limits chart should look familiar, as it is the same income limits chart that is utilized for the DARE program. So again, the eligible AMI categories for East Tampa, just like with DARE, goes up to 140%, which is the above moderate income category. If the counselor has calculated the total household income, and it is above this moderate income category, that applicant is not eligible for DARE assistance or East Tampa CRA assistance. This top line shows you the maximum amount that a household would be able to earn and still be eligible to receive any DARE and or East Tampa CRA funding. If the total household income is above this above moderate income line, that applicant is not eligible for city assistance. This chart provides you with a side-by-side comparison of both programs, the DARE program and the East Tampa CRA program. Please pay close attention to the maximum amount of assistance for both programs. For the DARE program is $40,000. For the East Tampa program is $50,000. Again, the AMI limits for both programs is 140%. One of the other differences between both programs, as reflected here on this slide, is the minimum buyer contribution. For DARE, the minimum requirement is $2,000. For East Tampa, the minimum requirement is $1,000. If both programs are layered together, the minimum requirement would be $2,000. You see the loan terms for both programs: 10 years for DARE, 7 years for East Tampa. So if both programs are layered together and there has been no default, the East Tampa loan will be satisfied before the DARE loan will be satisfied. This slide again shows you the eligible loan types that can be used. It shows you that homebuyer education is required for both programs. Post-purchase education is required for both programs and is still completed with one of the approved housing counseling agencies. And both programs could be layered with other programs that may be offered by the state, an individual primary lender, or another type. Okay, testing your knowledge again. Another checkpoint question. Based on the two programs discussed, what is the maximum loan amount an eligible buyer can receive for DARE and for East Tampa CRA? Hopefully you got the answer correct. So for DARE, the maximum amount an eligible applicant can receive is $40,000. For the East Tampa CRA program, the maximum amount is $50,000. And yes, that would mean that if both programs are layered together, depending on the applicant's AMI category, he or she could possibly receive up to $90,000 between the two programs. $90,000. Now I know that some of you are looking to become an approved loan officer, and others of you are looking to become an approved realtor. Right now I'm going to discuss the realtor's role, but this information is still very important to loan officers because not every applicant utilizes the services of a realtor. And if that is the case, then a lot of the responsibilities that would fall on the realtor will then fall to the approved loan officer. So, what is the realtor's role when it comes to the city's first-time homebuyer programs? First and foremost, to become an approved realtor for the DARE program. And once you are a realtor for the DARE program, you are automatically a realtor for the East Tampa CRA program as well. Once you have completed this video, submitted the completed and executed realtor approval application and the completed acknowledgement disclosure, all in one package, no piecemeal, you will then be added to the current approved realtor list, and your approval will be valid until September 30th, 2025. Yes, you heard me correctly. Once you complete those tasks, you will be on the approved realtor list. Unless you ask to be removed, you will be on that approved list until September 30th, 2025. That means you will not have to watch this video again until October 1st or thereafter of 2025. Now, some applicants, instead of beginning the reservation process with one of the approved housing counseling agencies, an applicant will attempt to start this process by talking with the realtor first. If that happens, please refer that potential buyer to the approved housing counseling agencies, because that is in fact where the process begins. You are also assisting the buyer in locating a property that is within the Tampa city limits. This is to occur again after the applicant has received the reservation number. Once that purchase contract is executed, You are also ensuring that the 2 required addendums are also completed. Those addendums are the voluntary sales addendum and the home inspection addendum. We will provide both of those forms to you in a separate email. So when you submit that purchase contract to the city, you are not only submitting the purchase contract, but you are also submitting the completed voluntary sales addendum and the completed home inspection addendum at the same time. All 3 documents should be submitted to the city at the same time. And I will tell you who is to receive those documents at the city in the next few slides. This slide further details the realtor's role in the city's process. You may be needed to obtain a sales contract addendum if it's necessary. Now, please don't let that first bullet scare you, where we are asking for 60 days to close. We understand in the market that we're in that a lot of sellers will not accommodate that request. So we have seen and received contracts that show 45 days to close. We really can't tell you what to ask for when it comes to a closing date. That is your lane of expertise. We are not realtors, so we can't advise you on what to ask for. But just keep in mind, there are 2 inspections that are required for the city's program. And the city's inspection, that housing quality standards inspection, is a pass-fail. Anything that has failed that inspection will need to be resolved before we move toward closing. So that 60-day request truly just allows the seller enough time to remedy any item or items that have failed that HQS inspection. As the realtor, you are the one who is requesting the HQS inspection from the city staff. And as you can see, we truly attempt to get that city's inspection scheduled as quickly as possible. When that inspection is scheduled, on the day of the inspection, you as the real estate agent, you are required to be present for the entire time of the city's inspection and or for the entire time of a reinspection if a reinspection is needed. You are also ensuring that the full independent inspection is completed, and we're asking that the independent inspection be completed after the city's inspection, and I'll explain why in the next few slides. We're also leaning on your assistance to ensure that the buyer signs the following disclosures if they are necessary. One being the city's loan estimate, another being the lead-based paint disclosure, and this is only needed if the property the applicant is seeking to purchase was built prior to 1978. And yes, we are aware that normally when the purchase contract comes through, if the property was in fact built prior to 1978, there usually is a lead-based paint disclosure already included, but the city has its own lead-based paint disclosure and brochure that the applicant needs to review and then complete the lead-based paint disclosure and return that. Depending on who the seller is for the property, if the seller is one of the city's partners, we will also need the acknowledgement of no fee statement completed. But that's only if the seller is one of the city's partners. And just like when we were discussing the role of the housing counseling agencies, we are also asking you as the realtor to follow up and encourage the buyers not to give up during this process. So now this link should look familiar because it was the first link that I provided to you earlier for you to utilize to confirm if a property is in fact located within the East Tampa CRA. So not only can this link be used to confirm if the property is located within the East Tampa footprint, it can also be utilized for you to know if the property is in fact located within the Tampa city limits or not. So again, once you access the website through this link and you put in the address, it will start to show you, as you see on the picture that's labeled in city limits, it'll start to show you Tampa. So that's a great indicator that this property is in fact located within the city of Tampa. Conversely, when you're typing in that address, it may show you Hillsborough, which means that property is not in the Tampa city limits. So it would not be eligible for the DARE funds or the East Tampa CRA funds. Here is another link or website that can be used to confirm that a property is located within the Tampa city limits. Unfortunately, you cannot use this website to confirm if a property is located within the East Tampa CRA footprint. This particular website will not provide that information for you. But as you can see by the highlighted information in bold and red, it will confirm if the property is located within the Tampa city limits. What you're looking for, again, is what's highlighted in bold, red, and yellow. The tax district must show TA Tampa for that property to be eligible for the DARE program. If the tax district shows you, as you see on the right-hand side, U unincorporated, if it shows Temple Terrace, if it shows Plant City, if it shows Ruskin, if it shows you anything other than TA Tampa, that property is not eligible for the DARE program assistance. So let's just say that the first two links that were just discussed, you are not able to access. Here is a third link. So again, this link can confirm, one, if the property is located within the Tampa city limits, and two, if the property is located within the East Tampa CRA. So again, this link should look familiar because it was discussed during the East Tampa CRA program. So you see the in city limits and you see the not in city limits. And what you're looking for in city limits, the first bullet, the municipality, it shows Tampa. Moving down a little bit further, the tax district, it shows TA. Right below that, it shows you the community redevelopment area and it shows East Tampa CRA. So if the applicant was purchasing this property, which is a property located here at the top, the 3808 North 22nd Street, not only would this applicant qualify for the DARE program, but this applicant would also qualify for the East Tampa CRA program. Now on the flip side, if you look at the picture on your right, it might be to your left, but for me it's on the right. If the applicant was looking to purchase a property located at 3831 Tower Road, this property is located within Hillsborough County, and it's also showing you the tax district of being U. As a result of this information, this property is not eligible for DARE assistance or East Tampa CRA assistance. If you encounter any problems with any of the links, please let us know. I will provide you with all of our emails and contact information before this presentation ends. If you need assistance with confirming if a property is located within the City of Tampa and or the East Tampa CRA footprint, also let us know, and we will also provide you with assistance for confirmation of that property. Okay, you know what time it is. It's time for another checkpoint question. Can the city's funds be used for a buyer to purchase a property that is located outside of the Tampa city limits? Outside of the Tampa city limits. And of course, the answer is a definitively no. All eligible properties where the applicant is looking to use the DARE program must be located within the city limits of Tampa. Another question for you, and remember, right now we're still on the Realtors section. When a buyer contacts you as the approved real estate agent, what question should you ask him or her to confirm that the city's funds have been reserved? What question should you ask that applicant? And the answer is, what is your reservation number? And again, remember, the reservation number is a 6 to 7 digit alphanumeric number that begins with the city's current fiscal year, which right now is 2023. So the reservation number will begin with 23, followed by a letter or 2 letters, a dash, and then 3 numbers. So for example, a current approved reservation number could be 23H, which stands for Home Funds, -010, or it could be 23GF, which is for General Funds, -008. Earlier, I mentioned that for the city's first-time homebuyer programs, which whether it's the DARE program or the East Tampa CRA program, there are 2 required inspections. So now I'm going to go into more detail about the inspection process. So this slide gives you further information about the 2 required inspections. One being the city's Housing Quality Standards inspection, which we also refer to as the HQS inspection. And remember, that one is a pass-fail. The second required inspection is the independent home inspection. Now, if possible, and we understand on rare occasions this may not be possible, but if possible, we prefer to have the city's HQS inspection completed before the independent home inspection. And that's primarily because the city's HQS inspection is a pass-fail, but it is also free to the buyer. We pay the inspector for completing that inspection, but the buyer does not pay for the city's inspection. Conversely, the buyer is paying for the independent inspection. And again, that independent home inspection must be a full independent home inspection. We will not accept a home inspection summary, a 4-point inspection, or a wind mitigation inspection. It has to be a full-blown independent home inspection. This slide is also telling you who should receive that HQS inspection request, because remember, it is the real estate agent who is requesting that inspection from the city staff. Here are the 3 city staff members who the real estate agent needs to send the purchase contract, the voluntary sale addendum, and the home inspection addendum for the city's HQS inspection to be scheduled. Angela Robles, Dwayne Estelet, and Derek Lewinson should all receive all 3 of the documents. All 3 documents need to be submitted in one email, and then the city's HQS inspection will be scheduled. So still talking about the city's housing quality standards inspection. Once the purchase contract and the voluntary sale addendum and the home inspection addendum are received, city staff completes a preliminary review of those documents. So what are we reviewing? We're looking at the purchase price amount that is reflected on the purchase contract, because remember, the maximum purchase price for the city's program is what? $300,000. We're looking at the date the purchase contract was executed, because remember again, the date that the purchase contract was executed should either be the date that the reservation number was approved or a date after the reservation number was approved, but not before the reservation number was approved. We're also checking to make sure that the realtor, if there is a buyer's realtor, if there's a buyer's realtor reflected on the contract, we're checking to see if that realtor is also on our current approved realtor list. If not, we will not proceed in scheduling the HQS inspection, because the realtor for the buyer must be reflected on our approved realtor list. We're also confirming if the property reflected on the purchase contract is actually located within the Tampa city limits and the East Tampa CRA footprint. And those are just some of the things that the city staff will complete during that preliminary review. Now, once those 3 documents are received by Angela, Dwayne, and Derek, they then reach out to the city's inspector. They include the approved realtor in the email. And what one of those 3 is asking is for the inspector's next available inspection date and time. And normally he will provide at least 2 or 3 dates and 2 or 3 or more times. We are then waiting for the buyer's agent to select one of those dates and one of those times, because nothing will be scheduled until we receive confirmation from the approved realtor of the selected date and time. Once we have that, the confirmation email will be sent out to the buyer's agent, the loan officer, if the loan officer is known at that time, the inspector, and the housing counseling agency. So again, all parties will receive a copy of that confirmation inspection email to include the buyer's agent. If the seller's agent also wants to receive a copy and we are made aware of that, that person will also be reflected in the email, along with the loan officer, if the loan officer is known at that time, the inspector, and the housing counselor. All of them will receive a copy of this confirmation email. Keep in mind too, it is the city staff who schedules the initial housing quality standards inspection, but if that inspection happens to fail and there are items that need to be repaired, a reinspection is needed, and the reinspection is scheduled directly between the agent and the inspector. The city staff will not be involved in scheduling the reinspection. The reinspection is scheduled directly between the agent and the inspector. City staff is copied in that email communication, but city staff is not coordinating the reinspection. Also keep in mind, with the city's inspection being a pass-fail, and with the requirement of the full independent home inspection, concerns that are reflected on the independent home inspection will cause adjustments to be made to the city's inspection report. So if there are concerns on that independent home inspection, those can possibly be added to the city's inspection and will need to be resolved before going to closing, because we will need to have a pass HQS inspection report. And again, the agent must be present, whether it's the buyer's agent or the seller's agent. One of the two must be present for the duration of the city's inspection and the reinspection if a reinspection is needed. Now we understand that COVID-19 is still with us, and so we are trying to take the necessary precautions to keep everyone safe. So by looking at this slide, this is what we are asking the buyer's agent and or the seller's agent, whichever one is going to be present for the inspection, to do. We are asking for you to be present for the duration of the inspection. Arrive before the city's inspector so that you can unlock the property door, then remain inside of your vehicle while the inspection is completed. And then once the city's inspector is finished, you will be notified, and then you can secure the property and leave. You cannot give the city's inspector the lockbox code or the key to the property. Likewise, you cannot leave the key to the property underneath the mat or in another location for the inspector to obtain. You as the buyer's agent, or if there is no buyer's agent, you as the seller's agent, or if there is no buyer's agent or seller's agent, the seller must be present for the duration of the city's inspection. If the buyer wants to be present for the inspection, that is fine. That is strictly voluntary, but it is a requirement that an agent be present for the inspection. Just based on numerous HQS inspection reports that we have received, here is just a list of some of the commonly failed items. There could be additional failed items, but here is a list of some of the commonly failed items. This slide shows you a visual picture of some of the commonly failed items. Here are examples of additional failed items when it comes to the inspection. And here are two more examples of some of the commonly failed items. Okay, testing your knowledge again with the checkpoint question. Remember what section we're still on in the video. Who requests the city's housing quality standards inspection? And here's your answer. It is the real estate agent. And just remember from what I previously said, if there is no buyer's agent or no seller's agent in the transaction, then it would be the seller who would request the inspection. And that request, along with the purchase contract and those 2 addendums, are sent to these 3 city staff: Angela Robles, Dwayne Estelet, and Derek Lewinson. All 3 need to receive that HQS request. Okay, so I think that I just gave you this answer, so this should be 100% correct here. What document and or documents need to be submitted to Angela, Dwayne, and Derek for the city's inspection to be scheduled? And here's the answer: the executed sales contract, the voluntary sales addendum, and the home inspection addendum. All 3 documents need to be sent to Angela, Dwayne, and Derek in one email. No piecemeal. Okay, let's see if you have the answer to this question. Can the city's HQS inspection be completed if the water, utilities, and gas, if applicable, are turned off? And the answer is no. The water, utilities, and gas, if applicable, must be turned on for the city's HQS inspection to be completed. In addition, appliances must also be installed. If the appliances are not installed, the city's HQS inspection automatically fails. So thus far, we have discussed the reservation process. We've discussed the DARE program, the East Tampa CRA program, the Realtor's role, and the inspection process. So now we will go into detail about the lender's role. And let me start by saying this. Even if you are watching this video and you will not be acting as the primary lender, you might be the real estate agent. This information in the lender section is still very important for you to know as far as the city's first-time homebuyer program, because a lot of times your client will ask you questions about the lender's responsibility, about the loan process, and about anything else that may fall under the lender's role when it comes to the city's program. So this information is still very vital to you, even if you won't be the lender. But here on the slide, we see the beginning of the lender's role, which is very similar to the beginning of the realtor's role. And that is to become an approved lender for the DARE program. And likewise, once you become an approved lender for the DARE program, you are automatically an approved lender for the East Tampa CRA program. So you will not, as the lender, complete the realtor application. Instead, you will complete the lender approval application. But just like for the realtor, once you watch this video, complete the acknowledgement disclosure, and submit the completed lender approval application packet, you will then be reflected on the current approved lender list until September 30th of 2025. You will not need to renew your approval until October 1st of 2025 or thereafter. You will remain on the current approved lender list unless you request to be removed and or we are unable to contact you. And that would be the same for the realtors as well. And that will also be discussed before this video ends. Now again, as I stated before, the application process for the city's program should begin with one of the 3 approved housing counseling agencies. However, as we know our clients, sometimes they might start with the realtor first, sometimes they might start with the lender first. If they start with you as a lender first, I'm asking you to please refer them to the approved housing counseling agencies so that the reservation process can begin. And then of course, because the city or East Tampa, it cannot stand alone, we would have to fall behind primary financing, and that primary financing would be coming from one of our approved lenders. This slide will show you the documents that the city will need from the lender in order for the city's underwriting process to be completed. We normally will send you an email once we know who the approved loan officer is. We will send you an email asking you for these documents. However, keep this in mind. You do not need to wait for that email to send these required documents to us. But the one caveat is the city needs all of these documents as one package, no piecemeal. Please do not send us only the appraisal or only the dare request form, or you send an email that contains the 1003 and the lender loan commitment but nothing else. Please don't do that. Send all of the required documents in one email. Now, when it comes to these required documents, if you look at number 2 with regard to the loan estimate, we review the interest rate that is reflected on the loan estimate. And for the city's first-time homebuyer program, the interest rate cannot be more than 2 percentages higher than the current interest rate reflected on the Freddie Mac website. So again, when it comes to the interest rate, it cannot be more than 2% higher than the current interest rate reflected on the Freddie Mac website. The interest rate can be less than the 2%, but not more than the 2%. And in some upcoming slides, I will provide you with the Freddie Mac website that we go to see what the current 30-year fixed interest rate is. For number 3, the 1003 contains the applicant's social security number. Because anything that you email to the city and or receive from the city is public record, please send the 1003 securely to the city. If you cannot securely email that document to the city, we will provide you with our fax numbers and or our mailing address. But please do not send that final 1003 through regular email because it does contain the applicant's social security number. Keep in mind too, I know we're on the lender section, and although I stated that most applicants utilize the DARE program or the East Tampa program, they do utilize a real estate agent. Some don't. So if it's the case where the applicant is not utilizing the services of a real estate agent, we would then ask the approved loan officer to provide the fully executed purchase contract along with both of the required addendums, which are the home inspection addendum and the voluntary sale addendum, along with the full independent home inspection report and the contract addendum extending the closing date if that's necessary. So if there is no buyer's agent involved in this transaction, anything that we would request from that agent, we will now request from the approved lender. Looking at number 7, the loan confirmation for some other funding sources. The City of Tampa will take third lien position behind bond. When this program was in effect, we did take third lien position behind the Florida Hardest Hit program. We will also take third lien position behind the Home Sweet Home program, and there may be some other funding sources that we will take third lien position behind. Looking at number 8, one of the other required documents is the homeowner's insurance. Please look at the information that is in red, bold, and highlighted in yellow. The city must be included on the HOI as an additional loss payee, and this is the exact verbiage that needs to be reflected on that insurance policy. It needs to show City of Tampa, care of Marinette, P.O. Box 123, Downey, California, and you see the zip code there. With regard to number 9, we are requiring you to send us any buyer paid receipts for POCs, which could include the money the buyer spent for the full independent home inspection and or the re-inspection if that inspector is requiring one. It could be the buyer paid receipt for the appraisal or anything else that may be reflected on the lender's CD as a paid before closing. Keep in mind that we're asking for those buyer paid receipts and or looking to see what's on the lender's CD as far as a paid prior to closing, because those items will count toward the buyer's minimum $2,000 city requirement. So once the primary lender's closing disclosure is provided to the city, keep in mind that if the POCs and the earnest money deposit and or gift funds don't total that minimum $2,000, the buyer must bring the difference to the closing table. But please remember, if the buyer is using both the DARE program and the East Tampa CRA program, we are not confirming that $3,000 has been contributed by the buyer. We are confirming that a minimum of $2,000 has been contributed by the buyer. And that contribution can come from if the buyer needs to bring money to the closing table, any POCs that can be confirmed and possibly are reflected on the CD, the earnest money deposit amount, and or gift funds. All of those items can be used to confirm that the city's minimum $2,000 contribution has been completed. Okay, another checkpoint question, and please remember what section we are recording here. This is the scenario. So per the Freddie Mac website, the average mortgage rate for a 30-year fixed loan is 4.50%. What is the maximum interest rate the city will approve on a lender's loan estimate? And here is the answer. So if the Freddie Mac website, and you have the website address reflected here, if the Freddie Mac website is showing that for a 30-year fixed rate loan, the interest rate is 4.50%, Remembering that the first mortgage must be a fixed rate and can't be more than 2% above the average rate as shown at that website. So the answer would be 6.50. The lender's interest rate could be less than the 6.50, but it cannot be more than the 6.50 because the interest rate, when we looked at that website today, showed 4.50. So the interest rate on the loan estimate can't be more than 6.50. So like every other slide in this recording, this specific slide shows you the file review approval process once the lender documents have been received and the city's underwriting is in the process of being completed. So with regard to the review, once the approved lender's documents are received, one thing is we're making sure that the purchase price is not higher than the appraised value. So again, the purchase price cannot be higher than the appraised value that is reflected on the appraisal. We're ensuring that we have loan confirmation for all funding sources. We need actual documentation confirming any additional funding source. We're also checking to see that the loan amount on the loan estimate matches the loan amount on the DARE request form, the 1003, and the lender loan commitment. Everything should match. There should not be one amount on the loan estimate and then another amount on the DARE request form and then a different amount on the 1003 and then another amount on the loan commitment. All of those amounts should match. If the loan amount changes, we will need all of the applicable documents to show the updated loan amount. We're also looking to see, when it comes to the homeowner's insurance, that the city is reflected on the policy as an additional loss payee. Keep in mind, I think I said this earlier in the video, that the maximum city ratios are 36:43, and that the max combined loan to value for the city's first-time homebuyer program is 105%. And again, if the property is built prior to 1978, the city's lead-based paint disclosure, along with the brochure entitled "Protect Your Family from Lead in Your Home," will be sent to the buyer. You, as the approved lender, will also be copied in that email, along with the buyer's agent, if there is one, and the approved housing counseling agency. Now, once the city has received the lender's closing disclosure, what are we looking for? 1, has the buyer satisfied the city's $2,000 minimum investment? And if only the East Tampa CRA money is being used, because we don't have money for the other AMI categories, whether it's home or SHIP or general funds, has a minimum $1,000 been contributed if it's only the East Tampa money that's being used? 2, is the city's correct loan amount disclosed on the CD? Because the city will have its own CD, what we normally see on the approved lender CD is our net loan amount, because our 2 closing costs will be on the city CD and not the lender CD. 3, is the correct information reflected on all CDs? For example, is the loan term correct? Is the sales price correct? Is the interest rate correct? Is the closing date correct? Is the lender's info correct? Is the buyer's info correct? Etc. Number 4, is the buyer receiving cash back at closing? Does the lender's CD show that the buyer is to receive cash back at closing? This will be discussed in just a few moments, but the answer should be no, because with the city's program, the buyer cannot receive any money back at closing. Number 5, does the city have the lender's final CD, the one that reflects all of the figures, and not the title company's CD, which doesn't reflect all of the figures? And the main reason why I am emphasizing all of the figures needing to be reflected is because when we get to the part of finalizing the wire request package, that package must include all final CDs showing all of the final figures. Okay, checkpoint question. What are the city's max ratios? For the front end, for the city's programs, the max ratio is 36%. There is no minimum, but there is a max. For the back end, the max ratio is 43%. No minimum, but this is the max. And to answer your question, if you are possibly thinking it, there are no compensating factors, no wiggle room when it comes to the 36-43 ratios. Another checkpoint question. This one is true or false. The city's maximum combined loan to value is 106%. True or false? The answer is false. The city's maximum CLTV is 105%. So I know I mentioned this early on in the video, but please keep this in mind. With the DARE program, the city's loan amount is a flat amount, ranging from $15,000 up through $40,000, depending on the applicant's AMI category. Likewise, with the East Tampa CRA program, the loan amounts are also flat amounts, ranging from $15,000 up to $50,000. If the combined loan to value is over 105%, the DARE loan amount or the East Tampa CRA loan amount will not change. It is a flat amount. So therefore, if someone's loan amount needs to change or be adjusted, have to decrease, that would have to fall on the lender's loan amount or another funding source. But it will not be the city's loan amount or the East Tampa CRA loan amount. Okay, another checkpoint question for you. True or false? If the city's minimum $2,000 requirement has been satisfied, the buyer is allowed to receive up to $1,000 back at the closing table. True or false? The answer is false. If the lender's CD shows the buyer is receiving any cash back at closing, the lender will need to make some adjustments on that CD. Now, the CD can show 0, or it can show the buyer needing to bring money to the closing table, but the buyer cannot receive any money at closing. Not a dollar, not a penny, not anything. Remember when you were in school, whether it was high school, college, or what have you, and your teacher said that anytime you see anything that's in bold, red, and or underlined, that information was significant. That information was important. Okay, that is what's happening here. So this is why this entire slide is in bold, is red, and the majority of it is underlined. I want you to remember everything that you have heard and read up to this point, but I most definitely need for you to pay attention to this slide because it talks about the closing. Okay? Now, after the city's file is approved, meaning we have received all of the necessary documents from the applicant, maybe through the realtor, maybe through the lender, we've received all of the required lender documents. The city's inspection has passed. Everything is a go. Ratios are within guidelines. CLTV is within guidelines. Everything is saying go. So the file has been approved. We have received all of the CDs. Keep this in mind. The city requires 5 business days after the approval of all CDs to complete the wire. The closing should not be scheduled until the file has been approved and all CDs are approved. Here is another way to look at the information that was just provided to you in that last slide. So this could be any month during the year. So you see where it's showing you, and I'm going to try to highlight it for you, that on the 6th, the CDs were received. So on the 6th, city staff received all of the CDs. And then on the 7th, we reviewed the CDs and there were some corrections that were needed. One of the corrections could have been that the CD was showing that the buyer was going to receive $2.12 back at closing. Another correction could have been that the incorrect loan amount was reflected for the City of Tampa. It could have been that the CDs showed one amount for the homeowner's insurance, but the actual homeowner's insurance document showed a different amount for the annual premium. So whatever the corrections are, there are some corrections that are needed. So those corrections are then received by the city on the 9th, right here. And then the city approved the CD on the 10th, right here. Now is when the clock starts for the 5 business days. So now you're looking at the 13th, the 14th, the 15th, the 16th. City money will be available on the 17th. That is 5 business days after all of the CDs have been approved. That is when the closing can be scheduled. That is when the city's money will arrive and be ready for the closing. Not before that date. We need the 5 business days. You may be asking why. Stand by and I'm going to tell you. This slide is a flow chart that is explaining exactly what happens for the city's funds to be processed, and sent to the title company for the closing. This would be the process whether the applicant is only using their funds or if the applicant is using their and East Tampa CRA funds. This is the wire transfer process. Keep in mind too, when it comes to this process, the city staff needs to have all final, balanced, and approved CDs, because all of those documents, along with wire instructions, need to be included in the wire request package. This chart is showing you all of the different hands that need to receive the wire request package, review it, and approve it. This is the main reason why we need to have the 5 business days to get the money processed, initiated in the system, and electronically sent to the title company for the closing. 5 business days. Okay, question for you. And yes, we're almost at the end. If you were wondering, we're almost there. How many business days are needed for the city's wire transfer package to be approved and funds initiated in the system? And here is your answer. 5 business days from the date all of the CDs are approved. So if there are 3 CDs, because this particular applicant has primary financing, DARE money, and East Tampa CRA money, that's a total of 3 CDs that are required. So if there are 3 CDs, the 5 business day clock begins when all or the last CD is approved. Okay, true or false? If the closing disclosures are submitted to the city on Tuesday for review and very minor revisions are needed, city funds will be ready 3 days later for a Friday closing. Is that true or is that false? The answer is false. The minor revisions need to be corrected and the CD resubmitted for review and approval. The 5 business days are still needed once the CD is approved. So, we have made it to closing day. All of the CDs have been submitted, reviewed, and approved. The city's wire request package has been finalized, submitted, reviewed, and approved. And now we're coming up to closing day for our soon-to-be home buyer. So a day or so before closing, the city's closing package is securely emailed to the title company. Anytime that we have to send anything secure to any party in this transaction, the password is FAITH. F-A-I-T-H, all lowercase. So if we need to send anything to anyone using secure email, the password to open that message is FAITH. Normally, city funds arrive early in the morning on the day of closing, but just keep in mind, city funds, to include East Tampa CRA funds, if East Tampa is involved, could arrive anytime during that day, not necessarily in the morning. Normally, the city's money arrives to the title company early in the morning on closing day, but the money could get there anytime during that day. Once the closing is complete, what do we have? We have a happy homeowner. Yay! This information has been shared throughout this video, but we wanted to give you a slide here so that you would know who to contact and for what. So it's showing you up top when it comes to the Realtor application, the lender application, the city's inspection, process, the DARE program, and or the East Tampa CRA program. Your points of contacts at the city would be Angela, Dwayne, and Derek. And their phone numbers are listed here, but I also will give you a slide that shows you their email addresses shortly. Now, if you have a question specific to the city's underwriting process, the wire request process, and or the city's closing package, your point of contact would be Derek for those items, and his phone number is reflected on this slide. Now, you may have a question about the required home buyer education class, the city's reservation process, the reservation extension request process, the reservation cancellation request process. All of those types of questions should be directed to the approved housing counseling agency. And I believe their contact information was probably somewhere on slide 5, 6, 7, somewhere early on, where it showed you Salita's House, Housing and Education Alliance, and REACH. So depending on which agency your applicant worked with to obtain the reservation number, that's the agency that you would contact if you had a question about any of those topics on that last bullet. What are your next steps? Because we have, I believe, one more slide after this one. So I'm quite sure you are asking, what is my next step? So, if you are a realtor and you are requesting to be added to the approved realtor list, realtors should complete the lender realtor acknowledgement disclosure and the realtor approval application. You will submit both of those completed documents as one package in one email. You will submit those two completed documents to Angela Robles and Dwayne Estelet. So the completed disclosure form and the completed application must be submitted to both Angela and Dwayne if you are looking to be added to the approved realtor list. If you are a loan officer or a mortgage broker and you're looking to be added to the current approved lender list, you will complete the lender realtor acknowledgement disclosure form and the lender approval application. And you will submit those documents to Angela Robles and Dwayne Estelet. When it comes to the realtor approval application, that is a one-page application. When it comes to the lender approval application, that is a 2-page application. For either application, please make sure to complete the form in its entirety, sign and date the form. For the lender approval application, you will need to sign and date both page 1 and page 2. For the lender application package, in addition to that completed acknowledgement disclosure and the completed lender approval application, you must also provide to us a sample loan estimate, which needs to reflect your typical fees, and informational flyers regarding the mortgage products that you offer. Sometimes when it comes to the informational flyers regarding the mortgage products that you offer, our housing counselors will ask for certain documents from the packages. Usually if you offer some type of in-house down payment assistance program, whether it's for down payment assistance or closing costs, if you offer some type of in-house grant opportunity that can be used with the city's first-time homebuyer program, we are definitely asking you to provide us with those informational flyers, and we then in turn will provide those flyers to our approved housing counseling agencies. Now, please remember this, because this is also part of that acknowledgement disclosure form and is also on the applications. Whether you are a realtor or a loan officer, if your employer changes and or any of your contact information changes, you must submit a new application or application package depending on which approved list you are reflected on. We need, for audit purposes, we need the updated application or the updated application package so that we can then update your information on the respective approved list. If we attempt to email you and or get in contact with you, whether you are on the approved realtor list or the approved lender list, and your emails bounce back to us and we can't get in contact with you, our housing counseling agency partners can't get in contact with you, potential applicants can't get in contact with you, your information will be removed from the respective approved list. We must be able to get in contact with you. The housing counseling agencies must be able to get in contact with you. And of great importance, the potential applicants must be able to get in contact with you. It needs to be a very smooth transition from when that applicant receives the reservation number and is now trying to work with an approved realtor and an approved loan officer. That is the main reason for us having the approved lists. So please, if any of your information changes, please submit a new application and or application package depending on which approved list you are reflected on. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope that we have made your lives a whole lot easier by creating and finalizing this video for you to watch at your leisure instead of you having to set aside specified time to attend an either in-person or virtual lender realtor workshop. You are able to watch this video as often as you would like to. When watching the video, if you feel that any revisions are needed, if there is any information you feel is unclear and needs to be clarified, if there is information that you feel needs to be in the video that's not in the video, please let us know. Again, on this slide, you have our website address, you have our physical address, you have our contact information. So you see Angela's contact information, Dwayne's, Derek's, and mine. If you have any questions whatsoever about this video or about the DARE program or the East Tampa CRA program, and if you don't find that information in this video, please feel free to reach out to me and we will get the information to you as quickly as possible. If I can't provide the information to you, I will get in contact with Derek or Dwayne or Angela and ask them to provide the information to you on my behalf. But again, thank you so very much for watching. Now just make sure that you complete the acknowledgement form and the respective application and send those two documents and or that package to Angela and Dwayne, and then your information will be added to the respective approved list. Thank you again for taking time to watch this video. We look forward to partnering with you to help more applicants realize the dream of homeownership utilizing the City of Tampa's DARE program and or the East Tampa CRA program. Stay safe and thank you again.